what's supposed to be make you a woman.
Mm.
You know, and that's
Mm.
on the homework right there. So get the
All right,
information.
It is it's 9:05. Sorry, Brother Kim, we gotta get this thing started.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. That's what we're about.
We'll come back to you.
No,
All right,
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right, so welcome this morning to this the Black Gold Nation Cinematic Connections for Revolutionary Change. I thank you guys for being here. This is always an engaging and enlightening and an entertaining assessment of movies as it relates to the forward progress of Black people in America, Africa, and the diaspora. Come on, PowerPoint, catch up. I'm clicking. All right, what is the Black Gold Nation Movement? The Black Gold Nation Movement is an international organization that seeks to liberate and save Black people by establishing our own towns/cities whereby we control the environment to make our people bigger, better, and stronger. It is our contention, the leadership, the ambassadors, the members, the supporters of this movement, we believe that when we allow other people to control our space, we lose, period. When we allow other people to control our environment, we lose, period. When we allow other people to control any aspect, any systems within our own space, we always find ourselves on the bottom of that system, be it the educational system, the economic system, the spiritual system, the political system, the agricultural system, the security system, any systems that we allow other people to control in our space, we always find ourselves at the bottom. So since we since we no longer want to be on the losing end of this thing, since we no longer want to be on the bottom, we believe that we absolutely must control every aspect of our environment as much as possible, because it has been proven that when we control it, we not only do just fine, but we outperform other people, which is one of the reasons they seek to target that thing that we produce and destroy it. Why we came to be, based on the understandings, teachings, practices, and strategies of past and current organizations that our leadership has lived, studied, and or taught, and the need to continue doing, we build upon the successes, minus some mistakes, to provide our people solutions that work now, to implement a 1-year plan to build power. So we understand that everybody that came before us, all these wonderful Black people, were trying to do a very necessary and righteous thing, but for whatever reason, they failed. So that means that necessary and righteous work has yet to be completed, which means what? It still has to be done. So those of us that are alive and well in 2021 moving forward, it is on us to understand what they were trying to do in detail, to pick up our baton and run our leg of the race as best we can. And more importantly, we have to make sure that we are not just running for the sake of running, but we're running with a plan. Our purpose is to build a 100-year plan to build Black power. And most importantly, we have to prepare our children to run their leg of the race based on what we give them, so that every generation to follow has a leg up and is not starting from behind in this race for power. So we believe that the things that absolutely have been done to get us this far has to be built upon, but we have to study what's been done so that we can build upon. We do not make those mistakes, and we can put our people in a position to win, because we believe that Black people are born into a war that we did not start. We are surrounded on every front, and sadly, our people are 350 plus years behind on preparing to fight this war. And we do not have a lot of time to find the right Black people to put us in a position so that we can win. So everything we do matters, because time is not on our side. So with that, I'm going to turn this thing over to Brother Craig B. Lee, who's going to break down this movie, this documentary, Plutocracy, Part 3.
Good morning to everybody who is on the call, and those who could not be here, and those who may attend. This is our latest workshop, I would say, because that's what we actually do, of these movie reviews of Plutocracy, the 3rd episode. And as I always love to do, before I get into the mix of all of the information that I have from the film, I like to get everybody's perspective of what they saw when viewing the film, and just a couple minute overview, and then we'll get into the depths of the information. So, who do we have first?
Ladies first.
Her?
Well, let me say this. I very foolishly thought that I would be able to view all three. Because I have not watched any. I'm just, I've, not been in on the cinematic stuff lately. But I could catch up last night and fell asleep. So I do not know.
Don't say that out loud.
I'm sitting back learning, and I will hopefully be caught up next time we meet. So
Cool.
Well, thank you for your honesty, Sister Mary. I appreciate it.
I know, Sister Mary. This is Tara. I can empathize with you. I've watched most of all three. I can't say that I've seen all of all three of them, but I did manage to get all of part 3 into this time around. It took a couple viewings, so just stick with it because it's not an easy watch sometimes. I thought it was, it's a continuation, of course, of 1 and 2, and really focusing on the labor aspect and how the country managed that and how corporations controlled all aspects of the business. I appreciate they continue to bring up some of the names that we are all familiar with, like the Rockefellers and J.P. Morgan Chase, and then how those very names are still pillars of community, and are still in positions of power today. What I could appreciate from this part was the emphasis on propaganda and the role that it has played in the sharing of information and the way it has influenced the minds of the people during that time and how it continues today. They brought out the 4-minute men, and being a trainer as a living, we know that attention spans are really short, and so I could appreciate the 4-minute perspective, and I think our attention spans are probably about that or even less now when taking in information. But it brought to mind the politicians that come to church and get on, that stand up in front of the congregations like, just give me 3 minutes of your time, and and they share their little snippet, and then the next one comes up and shares their, and that's immediately what came to my mind when they talked about the 4-minute men. So that still continues to this day. And then the other thing that stood out for me was the Red Summer. And it's talking about the Red Summer and the Great Migration. And, I've always wondered, I know there was this migration, but I think they put in really good perspective, how we ended up in different parts of the country and what drove us to those areas, and we were hoodwinked, and thinking that we were, I guess, going to be welcomed in these areas. We were needed, and please come, we have work for you. And then we get there and realize it's the same white folks live there, that live in the South, that don't want us there, that don't want any parts of us, that are threatened by our presence. And so we were still oppressed in those areas, even though we were invited, so to speak, to come and work. And then they also brought out that that's when, I guess, it was realized that race trumped class. And so that was one thing that stood out with me when they were talking about the Red Summer. So even the poorest of whites still think they're better than the best of African descendants. Exactly. So I'll stop there.
All right. Next.
Okay, I got on a little late, but I'm going to ditto everything Sister Tyra said and just add that their game and strategies have not changed. Same Kool-Aid, different flavor.
Yep. Next.
Okay, I guess I'll go. Yeah, my summation, one word, gangster.
Yep.
The propaganda. I couldn't help. I was smiling, and Brother Ken can relate. All I could think of was the military and the be all you can be videos and how they recruit you. I remember when Brother Lord and I made the drive to Shreveport a few weeks ago. As soon as you enter Shreveport, and I asked Brother Ken and Brother Craig about this, you immediately see 5 and 6 billboards for the Marines. I remember watching a movie. I went to the movies with my family, and at the beginning, it had an advertisement for the Navy, and it was big old aircraft carrier, and it said something like "Forces for Good," something crazy, and I immediately thought, well, it depends on which side you're on, and I was so taken aback by the advertisement that I texted my homeboy that I grew up with, who was also who was in the Navy, and just told him, because the propaganda is real, and they are serious with it, and even to this day, the rich still don't go to war, and if they do go to war, they're not on the front lines, and if they are, it's by choice because they can't get out of it, and we see that happening. Donald Trump and George Bush got out of going to Vietnam on some crap that if you did not have money and connection, you couldn't get out of. So, my summation is gangster, and all of these things. Sister Fabu, I was thinking about the documents that we're working on. Plutocracy absolutely must be one of those beginning videos that our people watch, the movie reviews, because it's one thing to understand that the system is anti us, against us, poor people, whatever, but it's a completely different thing to understand how, not just how, but how long it's been. This thing has been designed from the very beginning to be what it is, and that's how we know that when they say by any means necessary, they mean it. They mean it, man. So my summation is one word. Goddamn it! Excuse my French. Gangster.
Yeah.
And not gangster. heavy, man. I'm finished.
Yes. That brings me up to that. Class warfare. The title alone, and going along with it, with just watching, it covers pretty much every aspect of looking at how they do that. I mean, it just gives you a good picture, and connecting the dots back to 1 and 2. And like I said earlier, I was trying to jump ahead and watch some of the ones coming up, but gangster, yeah. Yeah, I have to ride that pony with you, brother, because it's a hard ride to wake up and realize all of the stuff that really comes against us.
That's right.
Come on.
That's right.
And what they use and what they throw in there. And I mean, it's like they'll use anybody against anybody.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't matter who, what, when, insiders to blow up stuff. I mean, it's something we kind of alluded to in our last our last session about getting, because it's really getting into the gangsterism of it. I mean, because it alluded to one of Al Capone's right-hand men doing some stuff, they'll use anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, and they'll stir it up. If we can use the song "Stir It Up," there it is. There it is. So class warfare, yeah. I mean, all different. It's not like Rakim said. It's not where you're from. It's where you at.
That's right. That's right. Say that again.
It ain't where you're from. It's where you're at.
There you go.
And if you're not at where they at, then you don't know what's going on. Man.
That's right.
They toss everything at you, and you won't even know where it's coming from. So yeah, class warfare. Yeah, it kind of takes you there. It really kind of takes you there. The information alone just takes you there. So you just have to learn how to sit there and process this stuff and really put it into perspective of where we are right now. And I saw a lot of the stuff right now, and that's what really counts. If we can practically apply this stuff, and like Brother Money said, do something. If it don't motivate you to get up and do something, then hey, you're already dead. You might as well go dig a hole and cover up because this thing is deep. It's real deep. And I'm gonna leave it right there. That's it, bro. I'm gonna leave it right there.
All right, we ready? Anybody else? Do we have anybody else? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I don't think there's anybody else. That's it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Those were very good summations, overviews to the film. Very good. I want to start off this morning by telling you guys
incident that happened to me back in 2000, I guess it was 2017, 16, 17. I was at city council meeting here in Shreveport, and this cracker, two crackers, they're cousins, James Carstensen and John Carstensen. And they were at city council meeting and they fashioned themselves as being liberal, quasi-liberal, but more so-called conservative white boys. And they were a part of the Libertarian party, political party. So we go outside of the council and they're trying to tell me what I need to understand. And what I need to understand, he said, Craig, this is not about race. This is about class. It's not about race. I smiled and I said, for you, it is about class. For me and my people, it's about race, class,
Gender.
sex,
Yeah.
gender, every goddamn ism and schism that you can conjure up, because that is how the philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy, racism operate. And so I wanted to put that into context because this cracker really views himself as an intellectual and as a friend of the Negro. And Negroes were duped by him to try to, for his benefit of trying to gain access into political life. He actually ran against me in 2018. I finished 4th in the race. He finished 5th. He was the president of a party. He couldn't even finish ahead of me in that race. So he switched over to the Republican Party, and they rejected his punk cracker ass. So, because his punk ass don't fit into the blue blood sector of the Republican Party. And I couldn't wait to laugh at his punk ass when he ran for Caddo Parish Commission in 2019, the year after our city council race. And so this film, especially this particular section of the film, is so profound. All of them are profound, but this one really, really gets into the dynamics. I told Tamani about this book, Democracy in America.
That's right.
By Alexis de Tocqueville. And this is a book that you all need to cop online. It's only a few bucks, but it will transform your life, because this is the greatest book ever written on America. And the film starts by referencing Alexis de Tocqueville.
That's right. I was shocked when I saw that.
I'm gangster with this shit, man. I'm gangster with this shit. So I said Tamani should find that interesting that I told him about the Tocqueville. And I was brought into the awareness of the Tocqueville in 2003. So 18 years ago, I was in New Orleans and I was looking at a discussion. I wouldn't call it a debate, a discussion on from Brown University with these white white professors and Cornell West, and they were talking about de Tocqueville's views on America and in religion in particular. And what got me attracted to finding out who this cat was, Cornell West read a quote where de Tocqueville said, "It would take a white person with a far greater imagination than he had to ever see white folks viewing Black folks in America on any kind of equal footing or with any justice." And I said, damn, who in the hell, who is that white boy? Because I had already figured out I was going to have to start using white folks like John Brown, the great abolitionist and revolutionary, and his words to craft the agenda, our propaganda against the system of capitalistic white supremacy. Right. So I'm glad that Tyra brought that out about propaganda, because we're going to get into that. But I want to read you a couple of quotes from the book Democracy in America, so you can see how gangster this white boy Tocqueville was, and this is why they started off with him, because he's gangster. And he came to America in 1831 with his partner Bonaparte, and he was a French aristocrat. And they came here to analyze this experiment called America and this whole illusion of democracy. And in the film, it quotes him as saying he believed that the manufacturing aristocracy is one of the harshest systems in the world. And so here are a few quotes from the book, just to show you how you probably think that Malcolm X or some phenomenal cat wrote this just the other day. Look at what he said. "If we reason from what passes in the world, we should almost say that the European is to other races of mankind what man himself is to lower animals. He makes them subservient to his youth, and when he cannot subdue, he destroys them. Oppression has, at one stroke, deprived the descendants of the Africans of almost all the privileges of humanity. The Negro of the United States has lost even the remembrance of his country. The language which his forefathers spoke is never heard around him. He abjured their religion and forgot their customs when he ceased to belong to Africa without acquiring any claim to European privilege." He's talking about culture. "But he remains halfway between the two communities, isolated between two races, sold by the one, repulsed by the other, finding not a spot in the universe to call by the name of country, except the faint image of a home which the shelter of his master's roofs afford." He goes even deeper. "If he becomes free," talking about the Negro, "independence is often felt by him to be a heavier burden than slavery. For having learned in the course of his life to submit to everything except reason, he is too unacquainted with her dictates to obey them. 1,000 new desires beset him, and he has not the knowledge and energy necessary to resist them. These are masters which it is necessary to contend with, and he has learned only to submit and obey. In short, he is sunk to such a depth of wretchedness that while servitude brutalizes, liberty, God damn, freedom destroys him." Damn. Hold on, last one. "The Negro makes 1,000 fruitless efforts to insinuate himself among men who repulse him. He conforms to the taste of his oppressors, adopts their opinions, and hopes by imitating them to form a part of their community. Having been told from infancy that his race is naturally inferior to whites, he assents to the proposition and is ashamed of his own nature. In each of his traces, he discovers a trace of slavery, and if it were in his power, he would willingly rid himself of everything that makes him what he is. The Indian, on the contrary, has his imagination inflated with the pretended nobility of his origin and lives and dies in the midst of these dreams of pride. Far from desiring to conform his habits to ours, he loves his savage life and his savage life as a distinguishing mark of his race and repels every advance to civilization, less perhaps from hatred of it than from the dread of resembling the European. So he was here contrasting. He was here contrasting whites, the aristocracy, the plutocrats, the oligarchs, the aristocracy, poor white, our people, and so-called Indians. And bruh, he got more fire quotes than that, but I just wanted to give you a taste of why they featured him first in this joint, because it is absolutely profound. After they give you a little insight on the Tocqueville, they mention the robber barons, the families that control this game. They mention, of course, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Dale Carnegie in this, but this gets into the Vanderbilts and all of this shit. So like when you see the homosexual Anderson Cooper on television and you say, oh, we love Anderson Cooper, he's so normal, he's such a regular guy. Who is Anderson Cooper's mama? Gloria
Vanderbilt.
Gloria Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Bruh, they are inserted in every aspect. Oh, well, Craig, that's just a long time ago. That don't happen no more. We that. Bruh, this see, Craig, the system is broken. We got to fix the system. Bruh, the system is operating perfectly, just like it is intended to operate. All right. So the next big thing I wrote down, President Rutherford B. Hayes, the 19th president of the United States, said, listen to this. The United States, which it never was, but he said the United States is no longer a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, but it is a government of corporations, by corporations, and for corporations. The unfortunate reality is that labor is not understanding that you're not going to force a corporation to change. You're not. They'll acquiesce and play games with you to a certain degree, but they're not going to change from their capitalistic structure because they don't want to have to do any actual work. Their work in their mind is the intellectual capital to produce the corporation and all of the stuff by now using people who don't know how to think, period. And so the only real solution is for grassroots people to learn how to put their own goddamn corporations together.
Yes, sir.
I mean, bro, this is the only goddamn solution. Not trying to burn their goddamn corporation down and all this foolishness, but for grassroots people to become entrepreneurs. That's the only way. But we're going to get into that. So that gets into economic inequality because the corporation, again, remember that, Rutherford B. Hayes, this is a government of corporations, by corporations, and for corporations. That's wrong. They're giving them tax breaks. They ain't giving us number $600. And they're giving them trillions of dollars. Shut the fuck up. Goddamn corporation takeover. And if you ain't understanding of this, by this time, go kill your goddamn self. Because that's what this is all about. Either you're gonna get in this guy. Malcolm said it in the movie One Night in Miami. Ain't no more goddamn sideline observers. Ain't no fence observers. Either you're going to be in the game or you're going to be out the game. And if you're going to be out the game, that means we're going to have to put your punk ass in the dirt. Ain't no more option. This is where this thing is at. But the Negro and poor white folks, they believe that there's some middle ground. It ain't no goddamn middle ground. Okay, this is the reality. Of course, although they didn't get into it real heavy like they did in 1 and 2, the Pinkerton Detective Agency served the interests of the corporation. Okay, I'm gonna come to you right now, Brother Money. But they served the interests of the corporations as private armies in order to keep the labor intact, constantly working from that standpoint. All right, Brother T.
No, I didn't have anything.
Okay, I thought you had something. So the game is so clever that the corporations employ the detective agencies and they use them to keep the labor movement intact, in check. And so these people would literally come kill your goddamn man and force your punk ass to go back to work. This thing is so clever, it's unreal. So what they did in this particular film, they gave a lot of case analysis that we need to research, like the Ludlow, Colorado workplace battle, where the Rockefellers, this is in 1914. And a lot of this, they really focused on because this was leading into the First World War. This is very important time frame that shaped what we see today in America. And so there was a mental conditioning to accept the war, and then we're gonna get into that. That's the propaganda piece. But go back and make sure you look at the case analysis so you can research them. There are two terms that you gotta know that are at the core of this film. One, the first one is imperialism. Imperialism is the policy, practice, or advocacy of extending the power and dominion of a nation, especially by direct territorial acquisitions or by gaining indirect control over the political or economic life of other areas. The extension or imposition of power, authority, or influence. What does that sound like? Does that not sound like manifest destiny? Mm. So I already told you, the white folks use 3 philosophies to rock and roll with: white supremacy, manifest destiny, and the divine rights of kings. So you got to know what these things are, including imperialism. And the number one tool that they can use, other than the 3 M's, the military, the missionaries, the military, and the merchants, the number one tool in terms of missionaries is what? Propaganda. Propaganda. Propaganda is information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. And I put down here misinformation and disinformation. But here's something that I figured out over the years of being in this game. Propaganda in and of itself is really not solely negative, because righteous people can use propaganda for their benefit when you understand this war game. See, so we haven't really understood it to that level. So when we hear terms like propaganda, we automatically think negative, so we can't use it. When we hear manipulation, we automatically think negative, so it's like we can't use it. But you can manipulate in a positive way, and you can use propaganda in a positive way. And you got to understand that we are in a multidimensional reality. Therefore, we have to basically get into this game. Yet again, they reference Mary Harris Jones, the white female that they call Mother Jones. She was a big time labor advocate for the coal miners. Again, you gotta have advocates. We go back to the movie One Night in Miami, And I remember the scene with all four of the guys sitting in the hotel room, and Malcolm is talking shit, and Jim Brown's like, "Fool, you ain't even got no damn job." Okay? But Malcolm did have a job as an advocate, but to be a grassroots advocate, that's not recognized by the Negro because the Negro don't understand that. So if you're advocating for the Negro, they won't look at you like they looked at Mother Jones or the advocates for the union, the International Workers Union that was created. Because you got to have people to advocate for your interests, period. Ken was in a union himself, and he was high up in it at Livy Glass. As a matter of fact, how many people on this call have been a part of unions, are familiar with unions, or their family members were a part of unions, labor unions? Ken, who else? Anybody else?
Mine raised his hand.
My father was in the union.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Sister Fabu says she's familiar because she works in HR. Great. Anybody else? Tyro, in terms of your corporation, are you familiar with union practices? Which part?
Not really. No, I'm not, unfortunately.
All right. Anybody else?
I remember having a cousin who lived in Chicago who was a teacher and a part of the union, and they were forever on strike.
Yeah.
She was always at home.
Well, this is what this thing is really getting into. This has been the whole game. Chattel slavery started beyond their hatred of us. It started as a labor deal, bringing our ass over here to work so they ain't have to pay no goddamn money. So this is where the whole reparations argument comes in. One of the most interesting things that's brought out in this episode, as it was in the first two, is company town. Company town. You need to research this. So think about this. If there's a town that a company owns, and I think it was in episode 2 where this white researcher said, if your ass is planning to move to a town and it's named after a company, you probably don't want to stay in that goddamn town. So back then they controlled the housing, the schools, your social life, law enforcement. So now what would happen if your ass woke up about 10 of y'all one day and say, you know what? God damn it, they ain't paying us enough. We need to strike. Wouldn't that happen?
You sure won't get paid enough.
You lose your house, your kids get kicked out of school.
Your
gotta
entire
go.
world collapses.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to relocate
Everything.
if you want to live.
If you want to.
So I want you to think about this now. I want you to think about this because this is a critical part as to understanding the pathology of the crackers. If the crackers did this to their own goddamn people now, their own people, they barely pay. Now we were making $0 an hour for our chattel slaves. They ass was just making about a nickel a day. A day. If they do that to their own cracker people, what the fuck then? How does the Negro not get this shit?
Baffling.
So look at what the white folks say. Okay, no problem. You're gonna kick us out of our homes, our schools. Woo. We're gonna go form 10 colonies back there. We're gonna battle y'all. We're gonna force y'all ass to recognize us. So what the goddamn crackers? We're gonna burn your goddamn 10 colonies down.
Clack.
Right. You know, and the messed up part about that, Craig, is that they called on the government to help with that part of it, and the government stepped up and did it.
And why did the government step up and do it?
Because they're owned by the corporations.
It is a government of what? Corporations. By corporation and for who?
For corporations.
You goddamn right. And so the people will really believe No, that's just on paper. Because the gangster shit is, we're going to put it on paper and then we're going to bust a cap in your ass and make you comply to what we want you to do. There's some gangster shit now. That's a gangster game to be able to, on paper, tell people that you got power, but then take the power from them by forming the corporation to then employ your cousins and your goddamn brothers in order to then come bust a cap in your ass to keep you in line. That's some gangster shit.
And you know, Brother Craig, that for that very statement, we should create a commercial around what you just said. And whenever a Black person says sovereignty, sovereign status, freedom papers, whatever the hell, shoot that goddamn 30-second. No, it don't work that way.
Oh my goodness.
because the laws you trying to hold them accountable to, not only do they not care about them damn laws, but they wrote the law.
Exactly. They wrote the law, they can revise the law, they can break the law because they are imperialists. They don't give a goddamn. That's just window dressing. Okay? And they know the people are too dumb to ever unite because in a capitalistic system, the first law of nature is what? Self-preservation.
Yes, sir.
And without spirituality and right culture, your self-preservation is only going to be viewed from an individualistic standpoint.
That's right.
Versus being an individual that's a part of a collective. You see what I'm saying? So they get this. And within this particular game, they can use currency, money, to manipulate anybody, any kind of way that they desire to manipulate them. So this was a very important point, but it's very critical because this is where you see, and I got to give it to the crackers, they were willing to steal no matter what, no matter how many of their people got killed, they kept on coming, goddamn. They kept coming. They kept coming. So I got to give it to them crackers. So it says here, the Rockefeller Corporation influenced state officials to call in, and this is the part that Tyro is mentioning, to call in the National Guard to shut down the Ludlow strike. And goddamn it, they did. And guess what? Not only did they shut it down, they murdered some of their goddamn ass. But here's so gangster. What happened, Brother Ken, what happened the day before the goddamn massacre by the National Guard?
Gangster!
Oh man.
Gangster alert!
We're gonna get together.
Amazing.
Get together for some good baseball. We're gonna have a nice little spring day in the park, and we're gonna bat this ball, and we're gonna get along, eat hot dogs, and all the good stuff.
Yeah, brace yourself, fool! West side!
And then the main man went to have a little meeting with the captain of the guard, right?
Come on, bro.
Okay. I don't think he made it to the baseball game.
Man, he shot his ass in the.
He had a headache.
With y'all, okay.
Yeah, man.
Yes, indeed. The goddamn National Guard played a baseball game with a punk ass the day before. And the people were thinking, oh, y'all just like us. If we just bond together against the corporation, we can all win. Okay, yeah. Here's some goddamn Fanta, soda pop. some goddamn hot dogs. And then, oh, I forgot. Hey, come to my tent right quick. Oh, yeah. Boom! Shoot his ass in the head. It's the reality there. So history is the best teacher to show. You can't tell me a goddamn thing about no white folks. Period. At all. All right. So that's something that you really need to pay attention to. Sister Papu said that's why she dislike attending the company picnic. Exactly.
Hey, correct.
Okay.
There were some guys that were making the big money in the plant, right? And I always wondered, why do you guys want to organize the little basketball games? It was, off company, stuff, like in and of their own. And it was to get their mind off of what was really happening, how they were duping us, how you had to struggle for, get higher pay and all this stuff. But guess what? If you went to one of those games or participated particularly, and you got hurt, I asked one dude, I said, now, you know what you get every week if you get hurt off the job, don't you? Man, it wasn't enough to sustain your rent, man.
Yeah.
Let alone a house note, So, what I mean? It was like, why would you do something that would put your health at risk?
Yeah.
And there were plenty of guys that came back with sprained ankles, you missed, a month off work here. Man, it was crazy how they would just try to do stuff like that to get their mind off of the task at hand of just really staying organized. And these were union guys doing this.
Hey, bro, it shows you the power of the various branches of entertainment as a distraction tactic to keep people not focused on the agenda at hand, because the people don't know how to think. So sports entertainment is used by the corporation in order to do that. And again, I mean, the shit is just very clever. So that's a great point that you just made, Brother Ken. Next, the film gets into, make sure you write this guy's name down, Ivy Lee. Make sure you research him. He was a propagandist, and he helped to spin the massacre at Ludlow in a positive way for the Rockefellers. So it's just kind of went by the wayside, because guess what? He influenced the Rockefellers to make donations to various causes. Let's get some chicken and some grits. They'll forget about this shit in a couple of weeks. And that's basically how this thing is done. And just like Sister Babu said, this shit is the same. That's the same thing, man. It's the same goddamn thing. So now we get into, the film starts to get into World War I. And here's where World War I comes and Woodrow Wilson becomes president. And now this is really what puts a big dent in the labor movement and whatnot. And of course, the United States and several other allies go into war with Germany April the 6th, 1917. So it's very important that we understand that. But now we get into a part where you got a guy by the name of Joe Hill, and he was a labor organizer with the IWW, the Industrial Workers of the World, and they call themselves the Wobblies, and they roll with an anarchist philosophy. And I thought this is very interesting because Mother Jones, I want to read for you what she said, and I want to see if this sounds familiar to a brother by the name of Craig Lee. What he basically said. Mother Jones influenced Emma Goldman, and Emma Goldman was about anarchism. And listen to this. She said, anarchism is a social philosophy about the emancipation of economic, social, political, and spiritual life for humans. What does that sound like? Sounds like the 6 pillars of empowerment almost.
Read that again, Brother Craig. Read it again.
Emma Goldman said that anarchism is a social philosophy about the emancipation of economic, social, political, and spiritual elements for the human race.
Anarchism, huh? This is how we roll. Okay.
I never heard that until this film.
Yeah.
So what does it show you? It shows you that the 6 pillars of empowerment has to be interwoven individually and collectively in order to battle.
Right culture, baby. Right culture.
Okay. But this cat, John Hill, he was a Swedish immigrant and was a member of the IWW. And he was murdered on November 19th, 1915. And his deal was very important because he was able to use, now we go back to the movie One Night in Miami, he was able to use what to get his advocacy points across? Folk music. So who was the big influence in One Night in Georgia that used folk music to make a powerful statement about what was going on at that time in 1964?
Yeah, Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan. And he wrote the song Blowing in the Wind. And this is the part where Malcolm challenges Sam Cooke to elevate his conscience to write a song like Bob Dylan, which of course, like I said the other night on our podcast, he had already recorded and released Change Is Gonna Come. But the point here is Joe Hill became a pivotal player in the labor movement against capitalism by using folk music in order to rock and roll. And his big song was called The Preacher is a Slave. So that's something that we need to focus on. They came up with the IWW. Sister Fabu said, was Emma Goldman connected to Goldman and Sachs? I would probably say she was, because she's a European Jew, so that's probably her damn family members. I wouldn't put it past it. But the IWW came up with concepts like sit-down strikes, revolving picket lines. So what you see happen in the 50s and 60s with the civil rights movement, they got that from the labor movement that the white folks were using against their own white corporations in the early part of the 20th century.
But you know what's interesting about that, Brother Craig, is that the quote after that scene, they were doing sit-ins at the job to stop production.
Yeah.
I don't think we use sit-ins that way. We were sitting in diner counters. No. My point is, although their actions in the civil rights movement were misdirected and it undermined our economic vitality in Black America, they were getting these concepts from the labor movement. Gotcha.
But you're right. They were when you talk about direct action, the labor movement, the IWW, was about that life. Motherfucker, we gonna sit down at the goddamn job. We ain't gonna do a goddamn
ain't nothing gonna move.
Okay? So they were about that life. Okay? So you just think about if the truck drivers, the people who are in transportation, you just think about if they hold up on some things, but you got to be willing to sacrifice. You got to be willing to sacrifice. But truckers could mess a whole bunch of shit up. If these cats the truckers could shut down all the interstates in the goddamn United States.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole economic system would stop because nothing will move.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but that can only happen when you have a mobilized, organized labor movement that's rolling and you got some strategic aims that you're trying to get through. They also reference, not in a large bit, but Helen Keller was a part of the Socialist Party and the IWW. So when we hear socialism constantly being thrown up, and Negroes say that they're against socialism, which I'm not in favor of socialism, but I've studied what that means. Most of our people haven't even studied what socialism actually means. But at the end of the day, I thought that was very important. So here's the question. Since now we know the IWW and the Socialist Party, these were the two big labor entities in the early 20th century. What did they give rise to? What group in 2021 did they give rise to that's been on the national airways over the past few years?
What group did the labor movement give rise to in 2020?
The IWW and the socialist movement, this anarchist movement. What group did they give rise to that's been getting a lot of press over the past few years?
Well, it has to be when you said it has to be
Are you referring to the FBI?
No, not them. He's talking. Well, it would be the other side of the Proud Boys. What's that group called?
Antifa.
Antifa starts with an A.
Oh.
Damn it, that was it. Yeah,
Okay.
Antifa. It has to be Antifa. Yeah.
Antifa.
Right.
Now, the beautiful thing about this film, you've been noticing now all of this shit that's been happening over the past few years in terms of this radical ass going in the paint on police, shooting their ass and possibly blowing shit up. Where's this been coming from?
What did they say it's coming from, or where is it coming from?
Where's the activity been coming from? What
Liberal
part of the
white
country?
people.
What part of the country?
Oh.
Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, Northwest.
Oh, okay.
The film tells you why what is going on today in the Northwest is going on because the history of anarchism is in that Northwest, Washington down to California area.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is all in the film now. I want y'all to go and check that out.
Because they had a big uprising in California.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we get into the at the 40-minute mark in the film, we get into the hustle. I call it the hustle and diabolical game of propaganda. And we've already discussed what the definition of propaganda, but they were using propaganda in a very clever way to influence citizens in America to accept World War I. And what you also find, the white boy breaks it down real nicely, is that the women's movement who was against the war, that some of their people joined the war effort. The socialist movement over in Europe who was against the war, they joined up with the various countries. And it's very clever because when you get behind the scenes, and again, if you're not operating on a spiritual and cultural level, and you don't have your group political dynamics very tight, the powers that be can infiltrate and use one entity against another. And they point out that a couple of sisters who were heavy in the women's movement, one was for the war, the other one was against the war. And so I can assure you that monetary benefits and certain things are being made, certain concessions are being made in order to make those things happen. That's very important that we look at. Another cat we need to research is a guy by the name of Walter Lippmann, Lippman. He was a propaganda expert. And I said, this is gangster. Look at what he says. He knew that average people are stupid. So the government had to do the thinking for them. So they created the government in 1813 under the direction of Woodrow Wilson. They created a committee on public information to promote America's entry into World War I. And this was headed by a journalist by the name of George Creel. And look at what George Creel said, because the advocates was calling this propaganda, but George Creel said, no, this ain't propaganda, it's something different. But this is what he said. He said, we're doing what we're doing to unify the American public into what he called one white hot mass instinct. Because now they're pushing the concept of Americanism. So if you ain't with us, you're a gangster. That's where the propaganda started rolling. And it says he rejected the term propaganda. He said his goal was simply to educate and inform.
Shit. Gangster. And you know, after that part, what was really, and I had to rewind it because I was making notes that they hit everybody. The Red Cross, the damn churches, the civic organizations, they hit everybody because I think they're thinking everybody needs to know who and what we are, and we don't know who we're gonna get. So let's cast a wide net. That distribution plan, man. Like I said, I made a note.
And the point that Tyro made about the 4-minute speeches is a profound one because they hit on the attention span of, you know, average people. And this is why the plutocrats, the oligarchs, and the aristocracy, bro, they ain't got no respect for no goddamn grassroots people. And because grassroots people, regardless of ethnicity, basically devalue education at an early age, they never figure the game out. So the only people that can help transition and transform this is who?
Grassroots people.
Grassroots who?
Hybrids.
Exactly.
Oh, she's trying to get all loud. I said that first.
I was coming off of mute.
Grassroots hybrids. That's the only people that's gonna be able to, because grassroots people, bro, I love a lot of them, but man, them motherfuckers don't want to read and study and do this painstaking goddamn work. They just want to go play and joke and shit. And this ain't no goddamn joke. These white folks for real with that shit. Period.
If you look at it in today's perspective, Craig, a lot of people don't realize what you just brought out. That's why music is based on a 3 to 4 minute limit.
Exactly.
To stay within the subliminal. So and look how, you know, the negative of negative hip hop has brought us to this day with 3 to 4 minutes constantly playing in your ear. It has moved the whole people. Yeah.
That's a good point, man.
And Ken, when you really, and when, you know, I've been sending out you guys the Toby and Wigway videos, bro. When you look at the amount of lyrical content, the amount of visual content that you can get into 3 and 4 goddamn minutes, bruh, it don't seem like it's a lot of time, but you can say a lot of shit in 3, 4, 5 minutes. And you got the visual to go with it. So Toby and Wigway is learning how to do it from a positive standpoint. This is how we got to come from a positive standpoint, just like they come from a negative standpoint. Another thing that you all need to really research, which is, man, I didn't even know about this. You know, we talk about, and this happened 4 years before the fall of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but it's the Green Corn Rebellion of 1917. Very important. I'm going to really get into this, but this is where in Oklahoma, poor white, poor blacks, Indians who were all sharecroppers, they mobilized and organized against the powers that be, and they were working with the Socialist Party and the Wobblies, and that had been going on 15 years prior to the Green Corn Rebellion. So they were willing to get together. It wasn't nothing but 100 and something of them, and some of them ended up getting killed. But again, they got together and said, God damn it, we tired of these inequities in the sharecropping field. So resistance, they put up some resistance. It was shut down, but I got to give them their prop. But this was about sharecropping inequities And this happened in August of 1917. And so now we come into the origin of the FBI, which started as the Bureau of Investigation in 1908. And this was started specifically as a spy group by the Department of Justice to get into the lives of anybody that they wanted to target. And if your ass was a part of their clique, they'll target your punk ass so they can get shit on you. So that intel gathering is very important as we move forward. That's why when I tell people being in this game, bruh, you got to be straight up. You can't have no goddamn vices. You can't be no crackhead. You can't be no goddamn gambleaholic, no alcoholic. I mean, if you want to smoke a little weed, you know, I guess you'll be all right. As long as you ain't feeding for that shit. But you can't have no vices, because if you got vices, partner, they gonna find that your weak spot, and they'll get the intel. And if they were doing this in 1908, you can pretty much rest assured that that shit is real tight at this stage in the ball game. Okay, so that's important, and they passed a very important federal policy that allowed for them to really get in a lot of people's lives, and they call it the Espionage Act. And that's what let them get to Emma Goldman and Alexander Berkman, her lover, and they were exiled from America for like 15 years. And they were so tight that they put it out to the Postmaster General that they were to identify any suspicious male that might be against the American war effort in World War I. That's how serious they were about that game. So again, if they were doing this in 1908, what do you think they're doing now by way of monitoring email, social media? You know, because a lot of the COINTELPRO now, they don't even have to hire investigators, because with social media, people basically tell what the fuck they do every goddamn day.
And they go live with it. It's like this whole mob thing that happened at the Capitol. They're rounding these fools up left and right because they went live, and they're all waving and screaming, and it's like, man, and they got tracked.
They got you. I thought I'm gonna send y'all the inbox. That was Reverend, my partner Reverend George McCain sent it to me the other day. I'm gonna send this to you. Man, this white chick, man, she crying. Trump, help us, Trump.
Trump,
Trump, we need a plan. They're taking over the country, Trump. Please, I'm about to have a heart attack. Oh my, bro, it's priceless. It's priceless. I'm gonna send that to y'all. But yeah, y'all done went live on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and now they're coming for your ass. So,
and you know what's also interesting about the war thing, Brother Craig, is like I think it was the white lady said it in the video. I think it was a white lady, but war is rarely about what they tell us it's about. It's about natural resources, taking over land. So here you have this plutocratic entity sending poor people to war to get more stuff, to make more money, to exploit the poor people that they are sending to war. So I'm keeping you poor with how I think, with what I do, with my systems, and I'm going to send you to war using propaganda so you can go make me more money, establish my reach even further, so I can exploit not only you better, but more people.
Exactly.
The philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy and racism. God damn it, you got to give it to the white boy.
and people are willing to roll with it because they create a mechanism where there are only a few employment opportunities out here, and so you're competing for those jobs. Yeah. And so now what happens? Since you ain't got no job, what you now gonna do? You gonna go to the military?
Right.
Or you gonna go in some form of law enforcement?
Right.
This shit's so clever. It's very phenomenal, man. It's really.
Yeah, you got to tip your hat.
So now they talk about Frank Little. That's somebody that y'all need to really focus on. He was another IWW labor leader. And then on August the 1st, 1917, he made a gangster speech against World War I and in favor of class war against the goddamn government in Butte, Montana. And guess what, folks? Guess what happened the goddamn next day after he made that goddamn speech?
Clink, clink, clink.
Huh? Yeah.
Clink, clink, clink.
Man, you gotta have a squad.
His punk ass was lynched, dragged, choked, and stabbed.
In his underwear.
In 11 minutes underwear.
Well, at least they didn't invite him to a baseball game. We ain't time for no game. Let me go ahead and take care of this, man. You know what, Craig? As you're talking, brother, I'm sorry, I can't help but to think. You know, of course, we don't want to acknowledge the organized criminal too much, but the organized criminal, like when we had the show about pimps, the pimp gets it, understands it. I'm not about to play your game, white man. I'm gonna do my own thing. Yeah. Because the United States as a corporation, it's organized crime. It's just on a higher level.
Exactly.
So it's like the mob. Look, I'm not gonna play your game. I'm gonna play my game. And at some point, guess what? Them motherfuckers work together.
Exactly.
And where we at down here?
Exactly, bro. I mean, that's.
You know what? I just had an epiphany. I quit. It's too hard. We can't win.
Yeah, but we can win at the local level.
Oh, by all means, brother. By all means.
You're not gonna fuck with them on no national level.
Yeah.
You're not gonna fuck with them on no international level, but one city, one town,
that's right,
at a time, you can now start to make some inroads. But you're not gonna play the game like they were trying to play the game and try to go build a house from the roof down. That's just not gonna happen.
That's right.
And I'm showing you all these examples so you can understand. Get that goddamn idealism and romanticism out your mind. You take over a neighborhood, a community, your damn city, your county. You learn all of that shit. Now we do the same thing in other areas. Get your mind out of this whole premise. But I'm glad that they did this because it gives us case analysis.
That's right. That's right.
What will and will not work. So, but by the way, there were no arrests made. So Frank Little was dealt with. Okay. So now we get into, by the end of World War I, oh man, now they come up with two other major federal pieces of legislation that to control labor, and they still exist today, and we are now in the midst of them right now, and that's the Sedition Act and the Immigration Act. These are the two big federal legislations that allow for the federal government to open the door to spy on, arrest, deport any labor advocates that were seen as a threat against capitalism. So this is how these folks play, because they don't want people like us to wake up the masses. You see? And so you got to be real clever as to how you go about doing this. So this is how a lot of the anarchists get into what was brought out in, I think, the second episode of Plutocracy, propaganda of the deed. And propaganda of the deed was, these were the hardcore anarchists. It's like, shit, they killing, we gonna kill. So they gonna kill up some motherfucker, blow up some folks. That's what they were about. But their premise was so goddamn crazy, they thought by killing up people like the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilt, the DuPont, the Carnegie, What's going to now happen, we're going to ignite this one single thing is going to ignite a chain reaction.
And everybody's going to start doing it.
They're going to jump in. That shit ain't going to happen. That shit ain't going to happen. And you had enough gangster activities going on that would show you that that's not going to happen. But I get it. But guess what? None of them ever thought about. What, Sister Fabu, what did none of them ever think about?
Can I guess?
I don't know.
Brother Tamani?
Politics or political power?
Politics, true. Well, they were in the politics game. They were trying to get political power.
Okay.
But one thing they never thought about in their tactical maneuver.
Oh, individualism?
Starting their own goddamn corporation.
Damn it. All right.
Their whole premise was, we going to shoot and blow our way to forcing the rich people to recognize our value.
Right.
And it ain't never going to happen. It ain't never.
And there were enough of them banded together that they could have done that.
Exactly.
They were the workers. They had the know-how.
Exactly. I'm like, these motherfuckers so crazy. We gonna force them to accept us and value us and give us better. But what we want y'all to do, Mr. Capitalist, here's our demand. We want you to stop being a goddamn capitalist. Huh?
I'm gonna come over and jack you for your meat pies and tell you, look, I want you to sell them like this. I want you to allow us to make them like that. And I have a daggone recipe over there of my own.
Okay. Come on, man. Come on, man. Go on and start doing your own goddamn meat pies, old crazy ass fool. Crazy ass fool. But I get it. They didn't think about it. But we got to use this analysis in 2021. Entrepreneurship, goddammit. Entrepreneurship. Stop complaining about them goddamn jobs. Use the damn job to leverage some resources, network with some people, start your own goddamn for-profit and non-profit goddamn business, and set your own policies in goddamn place.
And you know what Brother Ken said, Brother Craig, is the answer to all of it, because the grassroots outnumbers everybody. Exactly. So if you stop begging him to change, to give, to support, to repair, and just did your own goddamn thing, you wouldn't need him.
You wouldn't need him, man. You wouldn't goddamn need him.
You know what kills me is that the people are essentially systematically in that same mind frame as the people in those townships that were owned by the corporations.
No doubt, brother. No doubt.
Because they're so chained to those jobs and scared to lose that job, that job.
Right.
You know, they're not even. That's why I give one of my brothers a big ups, because he'll swing off of a job because of his skill set. He'll swing off of a job and go get another job, making just as much money in a heartbeat when he's not getting done right on the other. You know, I wish he would go into more entrepreneurship, which he's talking about now. But that's one thing. He's never let a job chain him down.
Exactly.
And he's always kept his economics in a spot where he could always be variable like that. You know, but people are literally chained to these jobs.
Exactly.
They're scared to lose their jobs, so they're really in those townships.
Exactly. And then again, on top of it, when you now start to get deeper into debt, okay, deeper into the dream state that the architects, engineers, and managers of the system, philosophy, system, and game of capitalistic white supremacy racism sells you, the deeper you get in, the more afraid you become. The more afraid you become. And Sister Fabu said that people are unwilling to do the work that's necessary to make this shit happen. And unfortunately, that is the goddamn case. But for us, we were doing more entrepreneurship back then. Now there's a resurgence now, but hell, damn near everybody's trying to do the same type of thing. You see somebody with a goddamn daycare, you see 50 goddamn daycares. Social services enterprises. In the city of Shreveport, you got over 300 damn social services Negro corporations. Crazy. So we gotta be elevated within our overall thought process.
And you know what's interesting about that, Brother Craig, is that you know with the jobs, you know, we get caught up in the whole the game of all of this because we are rewarded and awarded with trinkets and toys. And then with the job, we want to go buy more trinkets and more toys, not realizing that that is not living. You are caught up in a system. You're in the matrix.
Yeah.
And because, like Brother Ken just said, because you are so tied to that one job, because you see that job as the identity of who you are.
Exactly.
Not understanding that with the right system, you don't need a job per se. You got to produce, but your production and then your value isn't based on a check. It's based on what you bring to the table as a human being. But of course, we've never had that kind of system, which is why we keep losing. But man, we get awarded with toys, and we want to go out and buy more toys.
And I want to ask the females on the following question, because this has always been fascinating to me. At a goddamn job, and I know the answer to the damn question, but I want y'all to comment on it. At a damn job, why in the hell do the goddamn female, and some males do this shit as well, bring the damn pictures of your damn children, your goddamn wife, your husband, your grandchildren, you know, all of this. Tell me about that whole thing, because that locks you into that job as well. Tell me about that.
Well, I'll come off mute, Mr. Tamani, and I won't.
I didn't say nothing. I just got here.
But I can't really speak to that, only because I've never worked in an office like that. So, but I mean, I have that on my home desk, but it's in my home. Yeah, so it's different. So I don't know, but I do wonder sometimes when I go to, say, you know, doctor's offices or whatever, and I see photos of children splattered all over the place where, you know, it's not hidden. It's not really in a private space. It's like open for everybody to see. And it's like, I don't really want to see that, you know, but I don't know why it's done, but I get it.
Well, in my in my experience, it's been done to fit in. You don't realize how bad they really want to fit in that environment. So they bring in everything that can make them look like the rest of the offices look like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm here. I'm with y'all. I do the same thing. And then it gets a conversation piece. I'm a part of this.
Exactly.
But don't put no African pictures up there. Or they'll tell you, every time I come into your office, I feel like I'm in a movement. Yeah, you are. Get out of here.
Yeah, move your ass out of here.
Is that what Hannibal really looked like? I don't know. Y'all changed Jesus, so you tell me.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's all a part of trying to fit in.
Yeah.
I've had a job where I think on at least two of my jobs, I had pictures of my kids. I had one picture with all three of my kids, but it's my kids. I love my children. But as far as a bunch of pictures, I never did that. But I did have one.
And some of it could be just a reminder of why you're there. Like, okay, when stuff really gets difficult or hard to manage, you see these images that are more pleasant. You're like, okay, this is
so should I slap this person, or should I take a focus at my family?
Right.
If I slap this person, I'm gonna lose my livelihood.
Right. Yeah. Let me be reminded of the bigger picture here.
I never did it because they're too nosy. They always want to know. They're coming now. They're gonna start getting in your business. And I always use objects and words, sayings, and everything to keep them out of my business. And because I played the same thing when I went in their offices to keep them from getting in my business, I talked about, oh, that was your baby's birthday party. How old was that baby then? And it kept them out of my business because they love to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
I did notice it.
But it does help to build relationships, though. You know, when you see stuff like that, you know, depending on what your motives are. I mean, I used to use it from a business perspective when I would go into offices and see that on my customers' walls, be like, I'm gonna use that to my advantage to build my relationship and to like Sister Fabu said, to get in their business, you know, and to get to know them on a different level.
And you got to be real skillful with that too. You have to be real skillful with that, because if you get too friendly with them,
Yeah.
man, they're gonna get all. My mom used to say, if you
Yeah.
play with a dog, he'll lick you in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
they sure will. That's why I didn't like their company parties. I didn't drink when I went to their company parties, because it turned into, I mean, it becomes about you. And they will use that against you. I ain't tell them when I was sick. I ain't tell them when nobody in my family was sick. Because, man, they something. They'll have you thinking they your friend. And you look up, you done got stabbed in the back with information you gave them. Just a picture.
Exactly.
I like to nominate Sister Tara and Sister Fabu for the Spook Who Sat by the Door University. Because them sisters, they're plotting and planning and they ain't bullshitting. So, Tara for president.
But see, I realized you have to be real careful, because they'll use the woman against the man.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No doubt.
They'll use, and if they can get you on their side, and then right in your faces, if you don't have no sense as to what they're doing.
Exactly.
I did notice, Bro Craig, that in all the years of being around people in that kind of environment, they might have a few pictures. I'm talking about mainly the white people. They'd have a few pictures of their family around, but you never got the information of what was going on with their family. Even if one of them went out sick, one of the supervisors or whatever, you wouldn't even hardly know why they're gone until they're almost all on the way back to work.
Mm-hmm.
They kept that stuff quiet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps to tie you to the job, and again, when in this game, and you said it best, Ken, people believe that their occupation is who they are. I mean, versus what it really is, goddamn labor in this system. It's very few people who are doing jobs because they truly love what they do. Whether it's your business or whatever. So most people are doing this just to get a check to exist. And so if you're now in that environment and you personalize it is more difficult to break away. Those parties that Sister Fabu talked about, those outings, so-called picnics, all of that's designed to tie you to that job, and you kind of like put up with a lot of bullshit at that particular point. But I just want to hit on that because that was brought out to some degree in the movie. Another term that was brought out in the movie, y'all need to be aware of, agent provocateurs. These are people who the government put in the way of anything that needs to happen. And so that was brought out, and I put here, will create chaos to blame on grassroots advocates. And two of them in the movement with the Wobblies, Thomas Mooney and Warren Billings, they were sentenced to jail for 23 years for a crime that they didn't commit. Because you got to stop the voice of people who can now enlighten people to do something different with their labor and to challenge the system. One of the biggest things that were brought out, COINTELPRO, counterintelligence. Most people believe that counterintelligence started when J. Edgar Hoover was monitoring the Black empowerment movement in the 50s and in the 60s, but no, sir. This shit started in the early 1900s. Time the Bureau of Investigations, aka FBI, was started, they began counterintelligence on the Wobblies, the IWW, and the Socialist Party. That was the first thing. So a lot of the tactical maneuvers that they implemented back in the early 1900s, they used in the, as a matter of fact, starting with the NAACP and Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was their first real deal case analysis that they really got into in 1916, 1917 when he came to the United States. So they've been implementing COINTELPRO for a long time before you come to King and Malcolm and the Black Panther Party. So I just want to make sure that we understand that. Another big thing that was brought out in this film was this thing that they call the Red Scare. The Red Scare took place between January 1919 and April 1920. And this was a federal campaign that was waged against anti-capitalists who were immigrants coming in from other countries. They did not want, because these people were more gangster in nature and willing to blow shit up from Italy and from France and some of those other European countries. But they wanted to make sure that they scared the citizens of America that these people would basically lead the United States into socialism. And so that was very effective at helping to quell any real mobilization and organization on a large scale. I talked about the gangster nature of the FBI was on full display in the early 1900s. They had another entity that was created that Hoover became a part of, and it was called the General Intelligence Division. And that was something that was a part of their overall game plan as well. I talked about Emma Goldman and her definition of anarchism. And like I said, she was exiled for 15 years. Taro mentioned the Red Summer. The Red Summer in the 1920s, race riots broke out in East St. Louis and other cities, but it wasn't just because of racism. Here's now where we get the information that the white folks who were a part of the labor movement, who were trying to get better wages and better conditions, now what did the plutocrats do to create some animosity with them? They come to the South to now recruit Black workers to come to the North to now break the strike lines and whatnot. So it definitely, racism was a part of the process, but it was also this big push against class between the two white factions, the poverty-stricken and the plutocrats. So that's something that we really need to research, called the Red Summer, those race riots that took place. At about the 1 hour, 37-minute mark is where they bring in the Black Fall of Black Wall Street as well. There's another massacre that happened called the Centrilla Massacre that y'all need to pay attention to as well. And I put here that these hardcore plutocratic crackers went hard in the paint on their own people. And that was the Centrilla Massacre. They didn't give a damn, because if you weren't gonna comply with their labor get down, then we're just gonna kill your goddamn ass. Mm-hmm. It's that damn simple. And this is a quote that I wrote down. It says here, wartime brings the ideal of the state out into a very clear relief and reveals attitudes and tendencies that were hidden. In times of peace, the sense of the state flags in republic that is not militarized. For war is essentially the health of the state. The ideal of the state is that within its territory, its power and influence should be universal. And that's from a white boy, Randolph Bourne, in 1918. So a lot of what we see that has shaped America is in that time frame in the early 20th century, dealing with World War I. So we really need to pay attention to it. And in 1919, one of the historians said that was the greatest year in the history of this country for American strike. Now think about this now, you really don't see strike that much anymore, but it was going on at that time. So I think what the white folks know, that they have been very successful with the various propaganda techniques and tools that they used in the early 1900s. And then the more that they've allowed for entertainment branches to take shape, sports entertainment, movie entertainment, television entertainment, all these things help to distract you from focusing on the pursuit of liberation, equity, justice, and things of that particular nature. And also, they created a quasi-private public sector entity called the APL, the American Protective League. And these people worked in concert with the FBI and the CIA to go spy on your ass, just regular people. And that's why if you hear me being like when we had that meeting a few weeks ago, Brother Tamani and that young cat, Darius or Demetrius, whatever his goddamn name, when he started bringing up that rhetoric about dues and things like I'm very honed in whenever I use shit like that. And so when I hear that, I'm like, okay, was he sent here to disrupt and cause chaos? We got to be very careful when we look at that. And then lastly, the Seattle strike of 1919. That was the real big thing. And that's when it hit me. Seattle is ground zero for anarchism, Antifa. This is why, because historically, Goldman, all of these people who were anarchists, that was their base, Seattle and that West Coast. And so there we have today Antifa and the other groups. But all in all, man, Plutocracy 1, 2, 3. I look forward to number 4. But man, this shit is gangster. It is
something else I want to touch on, Craig, that
okay.
they kind of touched on it here, which makes it very prevalent to today because the same tactics have been used. They actually went back right when these riots were going on, getting ready to start. You know, we think in our mind about how, okay, these are just white folks just mad because they're jealous, right?
Yeah.
These people, they actually promoted people who they knew were Klansmen.
Yeah.
To actually, the government was doing this.
Yes, sir.
That's the killing part about it. And they promoted these people to invoke that hate for them to go and actually start these riots.
Yes, sir.
So that was government invoked, and they bring that a little bit more out in the next one. But I don't want to get too far ahead. But they did touch on that here, and because in a lot of these riots, well, we saw a lot of that. Well, we were looking at, oh, that's just a race riot. No, man, this was brought on by the government.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Because when you can create the chaos and confusion at the grassroots level, you're going to keep the people scattered, and they'll never figure the shit out. You see, and it all starts with you having spirituality and right culture. So if you don't have that, there's no way that you're going to be able to detoxify your mind of all of the indoctrination in order to figure this shit out. And if you've already turned or turned off to reading, studying, there ain't no way you're gonna figure this shit out. It'll be too. So it's all gonna always get down to your individualism, and because you're just focused on being an individualistic person, you're not gonna join even bullshit organizations like the NAACP, the Urban League, the Black Chambers. You ain't gonna do shit. And then when you have to join a legitimate group like the Black Gold Nation, you ain't gonna want to do that because it gets down to what Sister Prabhu said. You got to put some goddamn work in. Regardless of your occupation, regardless of your pseudo status, you got to put some goddamn work in. And the people really, in their mind, and now hell, you see with social media, their whole premise is we're just complaining behind the computer screen or behind the phone, and I've done my goddamn due.
Mm-hmm.
You see? And this shit is so crazy that the white folks got their hand on the post because, of course, they have Negroes tapping into the mindsets, Latinos and other ethnic groups tapping into the mindsets of the masses of their people. But the number one group that is always gonna get pimped until we step up as grassroots hybrids are our people, because they just drunk off the illusion of the American dream.
Yeah, I didn't realize how bad it was until I peeped at this. There's a movie called Uncle Tom.
Oh yes.
Oh man, I mean, some of these people we think they're being bought out. Man, these people are just gone. They are just gone. Just they're in there. You know, and then they're in there for their own self-righteous reasonings. You know, and they'll actually down somebody like me and you. Oh, you don't know. And the way this cat talked about Obama, you know, I mean, just for the premise of him just being that phenotype, you know, he didn't, and his wife, you know, oh, she mammied up the place, you know. This was Negroes talking like this.
Yeah.
You know, but that movie is a real deep one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
all of this bring that home.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm open to any questions. That was all that I had on this. But like I said, go back and look at each one. I don't know what Mary was thinking. She was gonna get 3 of me in. That ain't gonna happen, buddy. Because this shit is too much information to try to get one in during the course of a day. Yeah. You know, you probably could, you know, watch it and then come back and watch it again. But you got to take a lot of notes and then go back and then do some real good research. I appreciate these white folks, by the way, for breaking this shit down. I really do. I love it. Thank you.
Cool. All right. So no one has a question or comment for Brother Craig? Everybody solid? Everybody good? Questions or comments going once? Oh, okay.
I'm a person who didn't watch the documentary. So what I was able to watch of the first part, and you guys echoed it, is the reality that a lot of these like tycoons and stuff are responsible for so much like damage in the Black community, and like now they have nonprofits who, you know, they fund all this work. A lot of it is like, I guess they're trying to be geared toward like social justice, and which ends up a lot of times supposedly trying to help the Black community. And so I'm curious to know you all's thoughts on receiving funding from these people. I'm asking this because that's what I do. Like, I'm responsible for finding funding from my organization and or the organization I work for, and so I'm, you know, I have a philosophy for them, because what I work for is a led organization. But when I'm thinking about funding for, like, say, Jennifer's organization, Regeneration 180, I have a different approach. So I'm curious as to what you all think about receiving funding from these people that you know are responsible for things like, I know here in Baltimore, there are organizations, you can trace their history back to like blockbusting and redlining and stuff like that. And so I'm just curious as to, you know, what you all think about that, what your philosophy.
That's a very good question, Mary, and you're one of the good people in America, and I've told you this already, and as I've now, you know, made you the editor for the Who's Who project that we're going to come out with. You're absolutely correct. You got the white entity that you are working for, and then you got your cousin's entity, and you got to have an understanding. Your job when you're with the white entity is to be a double agent. Learn all that you can learn from that shit and help them get the goddamn cracker money any way that you can. So that refines your skills at grant writing, proposal writing, and you learn the mechanisms of putting budgets together. See, by you learning that, you don't know how significant you are to the Black-owned nation, to your cousin, and to other Black organizations that need to create, whether they're going after public sector dollars, private sector dollars, or they're raising private sector dollars from white folks or private sector dollars from their own people, to now show them how to put budgets together and give them real good perspectives, that's necessary. And so at the end of the day, we're going to always have to deal, always deal with these racist corporations and getting these resources. I mean, J.P. Morgan Chase, they had a grant, scholarship at one point for Black natives in Louisiana. It was called a Smart Start Scholarship, and it was a full ride as long as you had a 21 on the ACT and a B average, a few other things. If you were a Louisiana resident, you could go to Xavier, Dillard, all of your schools, even the white ones, in the United States, because it was a reparations type deal. One of the things that I'm going to be pushing for from them is to research that particular, reinstitute that program. Now, why did they do that? J.P. Morgan Chase used to provide insurance policies for that helped to sell our ancestors during the chattel slave while they were on the block. They provided that paper. So this was a quasi reparations type deal, but they stopped that shit, right? This is a good time to now force them their hand to start that back. That's going to be a push that we actually make here. So it's good that you're in the mix on both the white side of the nonprofit game and the Black side of the nonprofit game. And because Jennifer is within the mix of trying to do the school, you got to do this thing in such a way where a percentage of the dollars come directly from creative ways of raising money from Black folks. So you're not just what I call grant laden, where your money is just coming from white folks. Because then if you don't dance to their tunes, then they cut your goddamn wings and then you through. You see what I'm saying? So, but no, we don't get, regardless of whether the cracker money comes from the Rockefellers or whatever, we can flip the money and make it happen. But it's rare that they're going to really fund legitimate shit. So you got to create the illusion to get the money, and then a percentage of that, you got to accomplish what you say you're going to accomplish, then parlay a percentage of those dollars into some real shit. So we got to be double agents in this month.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ken.
No, I was going to say, how often do they dig into our pockets and they don't give us nothing back?
Exactly.
So the same thing is just flipping it right back to them. You know, digging in their pockets as long as we keep our intellect and our spirituality and everything intact, exactly. and not giving anything about not selling our soul back to them.
Exactly.
As long as you can keep that intact, I'll take that dollar every time.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you, Sister Mary, by any means necessary.
There you go.
Reparations will not be 40 acres in a mule or 40 acres in a damn Lamborghini. However we can get the money that we need to be free, goddamn it, we need to get it. Period.
That's legally done. You know, right. Can't sell crack, can't go sell your body. You know. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I thought that was. I already know. I apologize. Don't do no bad stuff, Mary, because you had a propensity, goddamn it.
I know, right?
Come back from the dark side, Mary. Come back. Don't go into the light.
That lower self. Keep it down.
Let me ask this. Now, I'm sorry. I don't want to keep.
Come on, girl.
But I don't. The other part of it is I don't want to do what I call this being on their anti-racism resume, which is to say that like a JP Morgan funds Regeneration 180, and now they can say, hey, we funded Regeneration 180. We're down with the people. We're for Black people. And so like that's one thing I really want to avoid is like to not have that. So like, is there a way to avoid that, or is it just? I mean, you can't. They say.
The only way that you're going to avoid that is to, as you and I have had conversations with Jennifer in the board meetings, is to become a social entrepreneur and figure out products and services to sell so that you are funding your own thing, you see. But there's a way to leverage dollars and not, as Ken said, sell your soul. There's a way to do that. And you just got to stick to your guiding principles within that particular realm. And so for you guys, I wouldn't see that would be a thing, but I understand the overall concern because they will use you as a test dummy to create the illusion that they're not racist because we gave this entity. But they're going to do that with a lot of different entities. Okay, so the way we got to think about it is they're gonna use Negro entities to do that anyway. So let us come in and get those revenues, resources, so that we know that they're going to be used for the right reason.
Yeah.
And let the chips fall where they may.
And you know, they're going to do what they're going to do. And we got to be the same way. Like Brother Ken said, you know, if they want to give us money, if they want to give Sister Jennifer money by way of you to help raise the next Malcolm, then goddamn it, so be it. They don't know that, but we know what the hell we doing.
Yeah. Now, for me, I can't personally take money from a major corporation, let's say for a political campaign. You see, my money has to come from grassroots people. Okay. Every now and then you'll get a bourgeoisie that'll write a check or a white boy that'll write a check, but they understand, you know, ain't shit going down but gangster shit on this end. So
no, not him.
but my objective is to get checks written to nonprofit entities that I'm affiliated with by those corporations, and then a percentage of those dollars then come back to me. So it's like a layered process of being able to redirect those dollars.
And I tell you, Mary, that is why it is so critically important that we not you, everybody come to the movie reviews and the Revolutionary Code and everything else, because we got to understand that the system is going to pimp you regardless. That's what they do from the very beginning. What we got to understand, like Brother Craig has been saying, goddamn it, start your own corporation. We got to pimp back.
Exactly.
But you can't pimp back if you don't understand how the game is played. Yeah. So if you know that the money is available so you can do your revolutionary work, but it can't come directly to you because you are already out there, then help start other shit and get that money a different way by any means necessary.
Yeah. Exactly. My grandfather used to say, when you got your hand in the lion's mouth, you ease it out.
Please do.
Don't snatch it out because you end up losing more than that hand.
That's right, because then he gonna react, flinch.
Exactly.
Why you moving so fast?
Yeah, but as long as you got it in there now,
hey man, good. It's a chess game.
You know?
We playing chess.
There you go.
It's a total chess game.
Yes, sir.
And but you know, Mary, the rhetoric that has come out of a lot of the pseudo grassroots revolutionaries and liberation entertainers, you will see that those cats ain't doing a goddamn thing. And the ones who are being funded by the Walmart, I'm telling you, even when you get some of these corporate dollars, man, these corporations ain't mandating that you be an Uncle Tom sellout ass Negro.
That's right.
These Negroes just doing it.
That's a choice. That's a choice.
Cause for goddamn sure, we got 45,000 from Walmart back in I think 2010 to do our CC Antoine shit. I ain't changed a goddamn thing. When we got our 40,000 from the parish, nigga, we still talking that motherfucking black empowerment talk. Nigga, we ain't changing a goddamn thing. But at the end of the day, I understand on some of my shit, you can't rock and roll with the corporate dollars. You gotta roll it in a different light. And so, but if you can leverage some of those resources and help do what you gotta do to help our people, you go on and do that.
Word. Cool. All right. Anybody else got a question or comment for Brother Craig about the show or anything else? Any questions, comments going once, going twice? All right, Brother Craig, you want to give your closing remarks, comment, statement?
Just in closing, like I said, go back, look at each episode 1, 2, and 3. Go check out the past movie reviews that we've done on this. Definitely focus on getting that book by Alexa de Tocqueville and the other terms and things like that we went over today. Go back and look at One Night in Miami, because I tried my best to connect some of the essential things to that movie with this particular episode. And just know that we're on the right path to building the Black Gold Nation. And I'm just being honest with you, not just because I'm involved with this and because of Tamani and Fabu and our team, but there's no other organization that you're going to find that's going to give you these types of curriculum enhancement for your daily life, your family's daily lives, your future, your purposes in life. And as we start to take shape this year, and as I lock down the city council seat in 2022, and we bring this thing into full view, shit, man, people gonna be wanting to knock down the door to be members of the Black Gold Nation. But now you start to understand, I think Brother Tamani starts to really understand, looking at this, why you have to be very careful about trying to run too fast before your infrastructure and your team is in place, because you got to properly vet people and make sure you eliminate, to the best of your ability, agent provocateurs, informants for the government, because they gonna come.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be able to neutralize them to the best of our ability, and sometimes allow them in for them to take back misinformation and disinformation to either the government or whatever private entity that's trying to throw off our shit. But we got to be specialists in this technology. We got to be specialists in history, so that we can know exactly what direction we need to go in with our spiritual and cultural pillars and educational pillars in place. And with that, I thank you guys for attending, and look forward to seeing you all on the next episode, which will be next weekend with Plutocracy 4.
No, weekend after next. We do this every other Saturday. So stop lying to
yeah.
people. All right, so thank you, Brother Craig. I appreciate it. As usual, you did an awesome job. Thank you guys for being a part. 2 weeks from now, when we do number 4, please tell other people. I always say it is an absolute shame and quite embarrassing that we have this kind of information being given out and not more people on this call. We should be turning people away because we don't have enough slots. We're talking about the kind of information that Black people absolutely need to understand what's what, so we can be free. And the reason why so many of our people are confused and don't have a clue is because they're not connected to what we're doing and how we're doing it. So always take some time to invite another melanated Black person, because we got a lot of work to do, because we can't do it on our own, just simply too much. So with that, always understand that no one can do everything, but if everyone does something, everything will get done. And absolutely, always remember that nothing is more sacred than the liberation and salvation of Black people. With that, thank you guys very much. God bless, and I'll see y'all in 2 weeks.
All right.
Peace.